All right, so text messages between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively just got unsealed, and they're revealing a Hollywood controversy that's turned into a massive legal mess. What started as a romantic drama adaptation ended with accusations of sexual harassment, allegations of a smear campaign, and hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits. Let me give you some context here. In August 2024, It Ends With Us became this huge success. We're talking $351 million worldwide on a $25 million budget. But something was clearly off behind the scenes. The film's star, Blake Lively, and its director, Justin Baldoni, they weren't even taking photos together at the premiere. Fast forward to December 2024, Blake files a complaint alleging sexual harassment and claiming there was this coordinated campaign to destroy her reputation. Then in January 2026, these sealed court documents get released, private text messages between Blake and her close friend Taylor Swift, and they show exactly what was happening behind closed doors. Okay, so let's talk about what Blake actually alleged. According to her lawsuit, Justin Baldoni and producer Jamie Heath created what she's calling a hostile work environment during filming. The specific allegations are pretty disturbing. Blake claimed Baldoni showed her nude videos and images of women when she didn't want to see them. She said he talked about his alleged pornography addiction and made descriptions of his own genitalia. She also said he walked into her trailer without knocking while she was undressed and added inappropriate physical contact during filming that wasn't part of the script. Here's one that really stood out. Blake alleged that Baldoni contacted her personal trainer behind her back to ask how much she'd weigh when filming started, and this was just 4 months after she'd given birth. Blake's team said there was no lift scene that would even require this information. Baldoni's defense? He needed to train his back muscles to avoid injury. Then there's the birth scene situation. Blake said Baldoni and Heath insisted she simulate giving birth naked. The actor playing the obstetrician was apparently Baldoni's friend. Blake described feeling violated and humiliated during that filming. And get this, the next day, Heath allegedly showed her a video of a fully nude woman and claimed it was his wife giving birth. All of these concerns led to this really important meeting on April 25, 2023, at Blake and Ryan Reynolds' home in New York. And this is where Taylor Swift comes into the picture. This is also where the stories start to get really contradictory. So, according to these newly unsealed texts from April 2023, before this meeting even happened, Blake reached out to Taylor for help. She literally texted Swift asking her to help with, and I quote, this doofus director. She was talking about Baldoni. Blake asked Taylor to tell him she was excited for the film. Taylor's response? I'll do anything for you. After the meeting, Blake texted Taylor again. She said, "You were so epically heroic today. I recapped every moment to Ryan. I kept remembering stuff. You making stuff up about me and lenses, and referring to yourself as my doll. This clown falling for all of it, but also resisting it. You are the world's absolute greatest friend ever." Now, here's where things get messy. Baldoni's team says Swift and Hugh Jackman were there for the whole 2-hour meeting, but Blake's deposition from January 2026 tells a totally different story. She says only Reynolds briefly joined, Swift showed up right as Baldoni was leaving, and Jackman left with Reynolds after just a handshake at the door. Then there's this TMZ source close to Swift who said Taylor had no idea the meeting was even happening. She arrived at the very end, met Baldoni once in passing, and just told him she was excited to see the movie. What everyone does seem to agree on is that Ryan Reynolds confronted Baldoni at this meeting. He allegedly said, "How dare you ask about my wife's weight? What's wrong with you?" Baldoni was apparently really embarrassed. He apologized multiple times and even cried. But later, he texted actor Rainn Wilson saying it was one of the hardest nights of my life. He added that his brain was trying to defend itself when they needed him to apologize. Wilson texted back, "You were set up and ambushed and personally attacked. I'm stunned." So after this meeting, Blake sent a letter on November 9th, 2023, with a whole list of demands. She wanted an intimacy coordinator at all times, no more showing nude videos or images of women, no discussions of sexual conquests, no mentions of anyone's genitalia, no asking about her weight, no mention of her dead father, and no spontaneous improvisations in physical intimacy scenes. The film came out in August 2024 and made over $300 million. But here's the thing. The version that played in theaters wasn't Baldoni's cut. Blake had commissioned her own edit. She used this editor, Shane Reed, who'd worked on Deadpool and Wolverine and one of Taylor Swift's music videos. Ryan Reynolds apparently wrote a big chunk of dialogue for the rooftop scene. When Sony told Blake that Baldoni's cut tested better with audiences, she basically said no. She responded that she, author Colleen Hoover, and Taylor all preferred her version. Quote, "It's done from my perspective, from Colleen's, and from Taylor's." Blake also got her famous friends involved. She and Ryan Reynolds texted Matt and Lucy Damon asking them to support her cut. Reynolds described Baldoni as, quote, "a malignantly vain, sociopathic faux feminist with almost no sense of boundaries or shame." Blake also reached out to Anna Wintour and Bradley Cooper. There's this detail from Baldoni's countersuit that got dismissed, but it's kinda wild. Apparently, Blake compared herself to Khaleesi from Game of Thrones and called Swift and Reynolds her dragons. She texted Baldoni saying, "For better or worse, but usually for better, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine. You will too, I can promise you." Now, let's talk about the alleged smear campaign. Blake accused Baldoni and his team of launching this sophisticated press and digital plan to retaliate after she spoke up. There were text messages in Blake's complaint showing Baldoni's publicist writing that Baldoni, quote, "wants to feel like Lively can be buried." In that same conversation, someone wrote, "We can't write, we will destroy her." Baldoni called all of these allegations completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious. He claimed Blake orchestrated an attack by sending the New York Times documents that were grossly edited. He said she used bullying and threats to take over the movie. Here's how the legal stuff unfolded. December 20th, 2024, Blake filed a California Civil Rights Department complaint. The very next day, the New York Times published the details of her allegations. Within hours, Baldoni's talent agency, WME, dropped him. On December 31st, 2024, Blake filed a federal lawsuit in New York. Baldoni came back hard. January 16th, 2025, he filed a $400 million countersuit against Blake, Ryan Reynolds, Blake's publicist, Leslie Sloan, and Vision PR. He even added the New York Times later. But in June 2025, the judge dismissed Baldoni's countersuit. Judge Louis J. Lehman said, quote, "Even if they turn out to be unneeded, an employee can insist on protections at workplace for sexual harassment without being accused of extortion. If an employer accedes, it cannot later claim to be the victim of its wrongful threats." Okay, so this is where those December 2024 texts between Swift and Blake get really interesting. In early December, before Blake filed her complaint, Taylor texted her, "I think this guy knows something is coming because he's gotten out his tiny violin." She shared a link to a People article about Baldoni talking about his past sexual trauma. Taylor wrote, "If Justin was strategic, he would be like, no Taylor Swift in the trailer because that gives you more power over the film. That's your ally, not his. This is so disgusting, and I hate that he's clever about this stuff." Taylor said Baldoni needed to be, quote, "beaten by his own words. His own words, that's going to be powerful. It's the only way to beat liars and hypocrites." She asked if everything was still on track, and people think she was asking about the legal complaint. She compared what was happening to, quote, "a horror film no one knows is taking place." Blake texted back, "Can you imagine feeling as confident as these predators that you're going to always get away with it?" Now, Taylor Swift's only official connection to this film was licensing her song My Tears Ricochet for the soundtrack. That's it. In May 2025, when Baldoni's team tried to subpoena her, Swift's rep put out this statement, Taylor Swift never set foot on the set of this movie. She was not involved in any casting or creative decisions. She never saw an edit or made any notes on the film. She didn't even see It Ends With Us until weeks after its public release. But here's an interesting twist. A source told Page 6 in February 2025 that Swift really wishes Blake hadn't dragged her into this whole situation. They added, "She can't help but feel used." So where do everything stand right now? As of January 2026, Baldoni's $400 million countersuit has been dismissed and it's officially over. Blake's federal lawsuit is still active. There's a trial date set for May 18, 2026. An entertainment lawyer named Trey Lovell said Blake basically has more wins at this point, mainly because Baldoni's countersuit being dismissed means he can't make her pay him anything. The documents that got unsealed on January 20th also had testimony from other women about inappropriate comments Baldoni allegedly made. There were photos from the birth scene filming, excerpts from Blake's deposition. Sony Pictures even released a statement